This is an oral history interview with Mr. Edward Bartzak by Bridget Ferns, conducted on April 1st, 1985, at 5 Baker Place, Newton, Massachusetts. This interview is conducted as part of the Public History Project of the West Newton Library. The general subject areas we will be covering include work from 1920 to 1950. Mr. Bartzak, were your parents immigrants?
Yes, they were.
In what year did they come over?
That's a good question. It would have been before World War II. I can't give you the year. I mean, before World War One.
Before World War One?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And what did your father do for work in the United States?
In the United States, he worked as a truck driver. Eventually, he started off truck driving with a horse and wagon for several lumber companies who were here in town. C8 Spring being one of them, which is another Marshall C. Spring company, and eventually the C8 Spring company was taken over by Grossman Lumber, and the transition was from the horse and the wagon delivery, all-day trip in Boston and back, to a truck. And, making deliveries to local homes being built and so on and so forth, with material they were able to take on themselves.
Did his occupation change during the Depression?
No.
Oh, it was truck.
No, yeah, it was right.
Okay. And did your mother work?
Mother did not work, no, she wasn't well, she had...
I should say work outside the home.
No. Well, she did as a girl when she first came over the country. She worked in a mill somewhere. It wasn't locally though.
Okay. And then as you were growing up, she just stayed in the home and worked?
Yes, because
okay.
I'm the middle of 5 children. My oldest brother now being 72. About that age, I think, about 72. And so she didn't have too much time to work on the outside that after the first child. Whatever she did was around the house.
Okay. Could you describe your education, like where you went to school, and while you were being educated, your ambitions and what you thought of as priorities after you got out of school?
Well, I was born in the Lower Falls here, next street over on Conklin Street, and went to elementary school here at the Hamilton School right up here, which is now housing for the elderly. And this is went through, kindergarten through 6, and then from there to Warren Junior High in West Newton, and then down to the high school in Newtonville. And what were my ambitions and so on and so forth?
While you were going through high school?
Well, nothing really. I think it's to get out of school as fast as I could. World War II started in 1941 for us. And that's about the time I think that I got out of school. I don't remember exactly when.
Did you go into the service?
Yeah, after 1940, 42, I guess.
You went into the service?
And under the ordnance, did basic training down in North Carolina and Army Ordnance, yeah. And then went over to England and then over Europe. And to get out in 1946, and shortly thereafter,
got married. You said that you lived in this neighborhood all your life. Do you have any siblings living in the immediate neighborhood?
Yes, yeah, next door, sister.
Family home.
The family home was next door?
What turned out to be.
Yeah. When he was
The-
5, his parents built a house next door. But
Right.
he hasn't gone for a while.
Really?
And I've moved from Concord Street where I was born to next door, and from next door to here. So I've
Wow.
really moved around an awful lot, haven't I?
Wellesley, he lived in Wellesley.
Yes, yeah. We lived in Wellesley for 3 or 4 years
So you built
after
this
we were
house.
married, and then we built this house here.
He
Well,
built this house
19.
himself.
Wow.
Well, sort of we
Part-time.
had a lot of help.
Yeah.
That's great. we just moved back to my father's, where he was born and grew up. We just moved back to the farm.
No kidding.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
You know, like my father, they like built the barn and
Right.
everything. It's like, oh wow, this is what Dad did.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't expect that from my kids, but
Well, I always say I moved around a lot growing up. But Ed grew up and went to school here, and his children went to school here, exactly the same schools that he went to.
yeah, right, exactly.
Are your children still in the area?
Yep.
Yeah, I have two
Two
daughters
daughters.
living in West Newton. One is 30 and the other is 20.
One is 32, and
32.
the other one is 20.
Oh, yeah, seriously. 32.
Okay. What was your occupation during? I realize you were born in 1923, so up to the 1950 period, you were basically you'd just gotten out of the service in '46. And what was your occupation when you got out of the service?
I went to work as a, well, after fashion, I worked at
Cardboard,
a cardboard
box
factory in Newton Upper Falls for a short period of
First
time. Robert
Shortly
Gere,
after you worked for a
G-A-R-E, Robert Gere Company. Huh?
that was such a short time.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was a, after we get married, yeah, it was about that long. I don't know if I saw it there. And I did a job, working as a carpenter's helper, so to speak. And I loved it.
And how long did you do that for?
Forever, I think,
Forever?
Till about
for,
8 years ago.
Oh wow.
yeah, so I'd say, what, probably close to 30 years.
So
Yeah, in that
you
area.
basically went around and worked on different jobs. Is that what you did?
Yes, yeah. Other
He
words,
did business for himself, the major company.
but when I first started out, I went to work for a local fellow working on a house here in Newton, and then there was another builder from Newton that lived up by the hospital up there, who was looking for someone, and I got the job, and I lasted with him as long as he built in the area for 2 or 3 years, I think.
What was his name?
His name was Nils Ing, E-N-G, and he was a Norwegian, an old-time builder. Did a lot of building in the Cliff Estates in Wellesley, which is quite a large, prestigious area there.
When you first started working with him, how many hours a day did you work?
Well, I hate to say this, an 8-hour day.
Was that considered normal at the time?
Yes, yeah,
Was,
right,
yeah.
yeah, 8-hour day. This would have been in
After
the
World War II.
Right.
in the late, let's say the late 40s. And yeah, 40-hour week, and I was lucky enough to be able to work once in a while on a Saturday, pulling nails out of lumber and stuff on that line there where no supervision was needed, and just to get some of the material that was laying around all cleaned with nails and debris and so forth, so it could be used the first part of the week. And I would just went over there and worked on my own.
Were there any other co-workers besides the man that you worked for? Were there any other men that were working with you?
Oh yes, yeah. He had one of his sons was involved in the business, and then there was another fellow from Wellesley who worked for the same builder, And depending on how busy he was, depending on how many people he had working for him. If he had one house going, he would probably have, he himself must have been in his 60s at that time anyhow, or even possibly as old as 70. And he didn't do any physical work himself. He was the boss who ran the job and hauled and
Supervised.
Yes, yeah, right. And his son was more or less the foreman on the job, and I worked along with him, and along with a couple of other people that he hired when he had 2 or 3 houses going at the same time.
So you worked right in the area then, so transportation wasn't a problem?
Transportation really wasn't a problem, no. We were fortunate enough to have junk cars that would get us there. A-car, yeah. Well, they were junk,
They were junk.
no.
They were.
And at times, when she needed the car, she could ride to work and pick me up after work or something.
I didn't know how to drive then.
You didn't? That's right, I taught you that.
The people that you did work with, did you become friendly with these people? I mean, well, what I mean to say is, did you like do things with them after work or on the weekends? That type of association?
No. I mean, well, with the Mr. Ing's son, more friendly with him. Yeah, once in a while we get together socially.
But real.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, Homestead.
That's what I was saying.
Outside.
Yeah.
And where did those friendships form? Were they from churches or social organizations?
Well, through past association. In other words, before we were married, Betty was friendly with a family in Wellesley. They happened to be plumbing contractors. Moulton family went to school with a couple of them, and so on and so forth. And so
And neighbors.
So yeah, and neighbors. And through her, I got to know them. Became very friendly with them. We spent a lot of time together. Joined the Masonic Lodge along on his recommendation, and helped him build a camp up in Maine that they were doing and so forth. Used to go trout fishing together and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of fun.
Do you happen to remember the length of day that your father worked? Like, say, in the Depression years?
Depression years, I can remember this. Right behind the house there used to be a railroad track, a spur line that ran from Riverside down to the Newton Lower Falls here. It's no longer here now, although you can walk the same bit there. And the bridge crosses over the Charles River. My father could tell how many days a week he was going to work by what came in on the freight.
I can also remember Papa saying about taking, I guess even when they had the horse and wagon, if he had to make a trip to Worcester, it was from early in the morning until late at night before he'd get back.
Well, not to Worcester.
Not to Worcester, well then by truck.
No, by truck.
By truck.
He would go to Spencer.
Yeah.
To pick up telephone.
And that would take all day long,
that was
late into the
all
evening.
day trip.
I think people in those days worked as many hours as they could.
Yeah.
Well, yes, yeah.
Especially if they had 5 kids to feed.
But if the train backed down in and it had 3 cars on it, you could tell whether it was lumber in the car, whether it was brick in the car, or whether it was going to Marshall Springs, which was on the other side of Washington Street, or to C8 Spring, which later became Grossman, and that would be on this side of the street. And if with brick-wise, everyone, gee, we've got 3 days' work anyhow unloading this. And they passed the brick out. They had a little hook the brick on, 5 or 6 at a time, and they put them on cast. It was like a long chute with a series of rollers, and they just rolled them down. They fell down, rolled up, and stacked them.
Did most of your father's friends or your friends' fathers worked long days like your father did?
Yeah, they pretty much had regular hours, 7 to 12 and 1 to 5. But quite often, if something had to be prepared for the following day, a load had to be put together, so it would be on a job site the following morning by 8 o'clock. They might work until 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And as far as I know, it wasn't any overtime. It was probably straight time, but they were delighted to get any work that they could get.
During the period that you were working as a carpenter's helper, and then later when you had your own business being
Right.
carpenter, what were the occupations of some of the other people in this neighborhood?
Oh, let's see. Let's go right up and down the street here, which would take us back to the 50s.
People that are living here now.
The people that lived there, like, we're shooting between the 1920 and 1950 period, and some.
All right, people that I grew up with.
Yeah.
All right.
The area.
Yeah. Well, Mickey Cochran went to B.C. and he went into
His dad was the fire chief of Newton,
yeah, right.
eventually.
And he went into the insurance business. And he's now in Wellesley and has a very successful business there. We see him once in a while socially. Yes.
What did Bump Morrison's family do?
I don't know. I don't recall him doing anything, just putting around the house over here. But I mean, Bump was a machinist of some sort.
Is this your age?
No,
No,
he's probably 25
next
years old. I
generation.
am, yeah.
Okay.
But my age, kids that I grew up with, Bob McDaniel is another fellow. He has been working up in Denison now for probably 35 years.
Managerial.
Sort of chemist, I think.
Yeah.
Lawyer.
Did he during that period? Then was he in school? He must have been in school.
During what period?
But
The same time as I was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was perhaps a year older than I. And
He went into the service and did he get into
he went into the service.
Went to college after he got out.
That's correct. Yeah, right.
and his father was a machinist, you said?
No.
No.
Wasn't
His
dad?
father was a painter.
A painter.
Yeah, house painter.
I would say most of the people who lived in the Falls, the fathers, your
Father's
father's
generation.
peers, were not college educated,
Oh no.
but many of their children
Were
were,
yes.
whether it was because they were in the service and could get
It's a free education.
free
Yeah,
education,
GI Bill.
or whether their parents were able to send them to college.
Did a lot of the men who were your father's peers, were a lot of them working in the mills?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. That was, I think, the lumberyard down here, and then the several mills. They had 1, 2, 3, or 4 different mills. They had a paper mill down here, which is now a stone bank, right beside a footbridge that crosses over the Charles River. A paper mill there, and they had another mill over on the Wellesley side of the river.
The rag,
Yeah, well, the Accordingly mill was down in back there too. They had rags and so forth,
wool,
and woolen, yeah, and then the Sullivan mill, which was just over the Wellesley line here.
where
on-
building,
on
where
Route
the
16.
office building is now.
Yeah, where 1 Washington Street is now. And most of the people work in that area there now. That's where Joe
The
Stincook's
mica,
father worked. The
place.
mica. That's where Ma worked for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah. In the mica.
Your mother did?
Yes, yeah.
Before the kids,
Yeah, before the kids were
had
born.
children.
And what was the mica?
It was called the mica. evidently they made some sort of product that was made with mica.
Okay.
And
And she did that before the children were born.
yes, yeah, right.
Alright. Do you remember industries changing? Like, can you remember when the mill started to go down and other things started to come up?
Sort of, yeah.
After the war, I think a lot of
Yeah.
changes took place.
Yeah, after the war, right, I'd say, well, in the early 50s, the mill started to close
The mill was
down.
still there when our children were first born. So I can remember wheeling the kids down to the falls in strollers.
Yeah, but it was over the hill at that time there.
Just hanging on by the thread.
They had maybe 2 or 3 employees down there, and they were just making up bags of.
That mica place had gone.
Yeah, that was gone. The paper mill
The paper mill
was gone.
All the mills on the other side of the street were gone,
Yeah.
weren't they, pretty much, except Gullickson's?
That's right,
Gullickson's
yeah,
still
yeah.
there?
Right.
I used
It
Yeah.
was plastic, wasn't it?
Gullicksen. Gullickson used to live across the tracks over back of us, over on St. Mary's Street. This was before the houses were built over there. And he had a long building that was about half again as wide as our living room, and maybe about 8 times as long in his backyard. And in that, he ran sort of a plastic molding business. And business got to be pretty good, and he moved from there to this building which was across the footbridge from the Charles River down here on the Wellesley side line, which is now, it's a stone building, real old building. Incidentally, we put new windows in it. We put it down there 7 years ago.
Do you...
And Mr. Gullickson had wonderful grapes, which we used to go down there once in a while, and time was right.
Liberate.
And liberate a few. Yeah, you could walk down the tracks and you could tell when they were ripe, and get on there in the evening and just look up through the leaves and up into the sky and just see the bunches of grapes there and load up with grapes. A little bit of coffee grapes.
Did your mother ever talk about how many hours in a day she would work when she did work for that mica company?
No, I don't think that I recall anyone working long hours or so-called slave labor or anything on that line there. And I think that people that I can recall
Except nurses.
didn't mind working the long hours. They wanted to work the long hours. It meant making an extra dollar, because pay was really nothing. When I started in carpentry as a helper, I was getting $1 an hour.
Wow.
$40 a week. And now, it's not unheard of for someone to be able to come up with close to that an hour for their services. Auto mechanic is getting, they're charging $33 an hour for a service mechanic.
In what community activities were you involved, say, when you first got back from the war and a few years after that?
Well, I joined the Legion, I think, didn't I, up in Wellesley?
Yeah.
Not because I was patriotic, but because they had television. And it was, and of course, it was one of the first sets around here. And we'd go up and watch a Friday night fights or something around here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have joined me. And I think there was a fellow from Wellesley here who was quite a bit older than I was. As a matter of fact, he was a World War I veteran. And we got to know him through a girl that my wife went to school
My
with.
chums was, her mother was second marriage.
And he was a very, very nice fellow and so forth. And he didn't chum around with us, but he was very friendly, just like one of the boys.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, Eugene Collins was the fellow's name. The girl, the family name was McDonald. There's only one McDonald. There's now four girls.
And then within a year, three of her sisters died. Young, too, you know, they were in their 60s, well, one was in her 60s. The others were younger than she. But other than that, I don't think we really did very much.
No.
Except worked.
Do you belong in any more community activities now?
No. When the kids were growing up, I was involved in Little League for a number of years. And scouting too. And
So I'm not really involved in PTA.
we'll attend the meetings and so forth, yes. And
Mostly
enjoyed
for the
it.
children.
Yeah,
Mostly
because
children.
of the children, and I stood on for the children out of it. Because I enjoyed it and felt I was able to
Well, there
give
really wasn't a
some
whole
joy.
lot in community affairs. See, New North Falls is sort of a little village all of its own. And there really wasn't much as far as community affairs were concerned. It wasn't until the younger group got going that they had really developed quite a community
Well,
spirit.
they had a Lower Falls Improvement Association.
Yeah,
Which
and
held
that's about
monthly
it.
meetings or something, and that was
Meetings
about
now,
it.
yeah. But that's about it. Now they have a lot more things going. Community school developed.
And they have Falls Ball. In the summer, they have
one day during June, one Saturday during June, they start early in the morning with jogging and so forth and go through right until the evening with various activities for the whole neighborhood. And it's a lot of fun.
And visiting, cookout,
And
and so
everybody, you know,
forth.
everybody who lives in, that can come back, the younger crowd who's left, try to come back,
Yeah, quite a few do.
bring their children.
See their friends?
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
nice.
you see their
Yes.
friends and all that
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
stuff, yeah. And it's nice, we enjoy it.
Do you remember any specific effects the Depression had on your family?
Well, all I can remember is that it really wasn't easy, and I don't recall personally ever going without or
They're very hard working.
or suffering because of the depression. But I know you could feel that they were very much concerned. Like maybe working 3 days a week, and again watching that freight come in and see what might be coming in for the days ahead, and so on and so forth.
I think his mother
But-
must have been a very good manager.
But we always
His
ate.
father worked hard and she managed it very well. They built their own home when he was 5. So that was in 1930. You were 5 years old when you moved into this house.
Yeah, but they didn't build the house. They had the
No, but
house
I mean, they
built.
paid to have it built.
Of course, yeah.
And Papa did as much as he could.
Oh, yeah. What did we do?
But when they, you know, they saved the money. I guess my mother-in-law saved it to be able to do that, which was quite a feat in those days. That was right in the middle of
The Depression.
In
No,
the heights
well,
of
no one went anywhere. No one ever
No.
went out for dinner or anything on that line. Yeah, that was.
It was just working.
Yes, yeah, and it was working and scrounging
Did
and
you have a
saving.
car back in those days? A
I
car
had
way
a-
back then?
I really don't recall having a car. I can recall him.
When you were
He must have. Yeah, he must have had a car.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of some sort. I remember going up to had an uncle up in Worcester, another uncle over in West Roxbury, going over there when I was a
When you
kid.
were little.
Yeah. Going down to Nantasket Beach in the summertime.
So your family was
So-
in relative good shape compared to a lot of other families during the Depression. Wouldn't
I
you
think
say?
from what I know of the Lower Falls crowd
Okay.
at that time, I think everyone was just about in the same boat. I don't know of anyone who was starving or who was getting handouts. Everyone seemed to be working in some fashion.
Whether it was 3 days a week or whatever.
Yeah, and they were getting by. They may have been getting by on credit. I know that they had a couple of markets around here that we used to trade at the Polish market in Newton Falls is still there. The sons were in the business, and they had another one down in the Lower Falls here, where you could go down and buy your groceries, and if you could pay them $5 that week, you paid them $5, and you got your groceries, and you write down what you got and how much you owed them. So I think that may have been one of the reasons why things weren't why we ate
That is.
every week.
But I think on the whole, the men were very hardworking. And
Oh, yeah.
the women apparently
Yeah.
were very good managers.
Yeah. I don't know of anyone that really wasn't a hard worker. Anyone that worked. And I think that we knew just about everyone in Newton Falls. When I was a kid, I delivered a Waltham shopping news to every house in Newton, Lower Falls. And my mother, who was, she wasn't bedridden at that time, but she wasn't getting around very well around the house, knew every household, every single house. And she would fold the newspapers for me by street. And it came once a week, and after school I'd go around and drop one off at each door. And she gave me Cornell Street and Grove Street all in one batch. I came out with exactly the right number. And she knew everyone who lived in the house.
What did you get for doing that?
$1.
For the whole week?
No, for that delivery. In other words, if I ran, I could probably do it in like maybe 4 hours or something on that line there. You know, if I didn't fool around, but I could hit it out every place in 4 hours, and that would be. You're probably not familiar with the area, but it takes.
Well, it wasn't nearly as built up as it is now.
No, but it went down. It went down Quinn Road,
Yeah.
which it still is Lower Falls, and up as far as the hospital property. Everything else that was boarded by the Charles River.
Do you remember when, I don't know if this would apply to your work, but do you remember when labor unions were introduced? Were they introduced into your work?
Yes, yeah, I remember. As a matter of fact, I was working for this fellow Ing over here on Wellesley Street in Weston, and the business agent stopped by the job and wanted to know if I was a veteran and so on and so forth, and would I be interested in joining the union. And the fellow another fellow who was working on the job was a little older than I. That was Freddie Sanford, came from Wellesley. Had been working at the trade a couple of months longer than I had. And at that time, I think that you were entitled to a toolbox and $50 worth of tools that the government would give you, that if you joined the union or went into an apprenticeship training program, and I guess that the union would supply this. And I was very much interested in doing that, and the other fellow wasn't interested in doing it, and somehow or other he talked me out of it, and I just never Yes, so bad, but
But that was not really the beginning of the unions. The unions were already established.
Oh, yes, but,
Yeah.
but coming around to the job and finding out who was working on the
Yeah.
job and were they
Were
union men
unions introduced
and
in
so on and
public
so
time?
forth. Oh, yes, yes.
Was it?
I can remember strikes down there at Marshall
Well, you see, the
Springs.
unions went back a lot, many,
Further than that, yeah,
many
right.
years.
It was,
So your father was a member of the union?
yeah, of the Teamsters union. Originally, no, but
Oh, that
after
would be-
a long, they had quite a long strike back then, which I think was around the Depression time, had to have been. They were on strike down there, although my father was working, and there were other guys working there, but I think that it may have been just at the time, or about the time that it was being taken over by Grossman Lumber. They wanted to unionize that place down there, C8 Spring. The employees there that they just wanted to work. They didn't want to go out and strike, and they weren't interested in joining the union. They were interested in working. And I think it wasn't too long after that they finally did join the union. And he's a member of Teamsters. And my older brother also worked for the same company.
That was eventually Grossman's, right?
Yes, yeah. Right.
Did you or your father ever encounter any racial strife at work? More so you, I suppose.
Racial strife at work.
Because he was of foreign descent, or
Well, you could take it in two contexts, which I'd like to have you answer both, but
Yeah.
I'm talking
black.
black, white, and then you being of Polish origin, descent. Or your father being from Poland in another aspect.
Yeah. I would say no to both. I can remember during the summer, cleaning brick, secondhand brick that was brought out of Boston or somewhere, and I think several of us youngsters would go over to Marshall Springs and work over there, and I think we'd get like 10 cents a hundred or something for cleaning the brick, knocking the old mortar off and so forth. And there was a black fellow that worked over there, Gus Getz, I think his name was, came from West Newton, and there was no discrimination, no anything. If he offered you a bite of his sandwich, you would take it. You wouldn't say, "Oh, gee, you're black. I wouldn't dare go near it." No, he'd put his arm around your shoulder and talk to you and stuff like that. Very, very nice fellow. And all the others thought it too. Used to play harmonica. We would do dance too.
They had a black man married to a white woman living down in Lowell Falls. I went to school with one of the sons.
And this was in the 30s?
This would have been, well, I didn't come to Wellesley sort of until the late 30s, and he was in school with me all the way along because I lived in Wellesley, and he happened to live just over the river. Stevie Rogers,
Yeah, well, he was Portuguese, yeah.
but he was black.
Yeah, but I mean, he was,
Black.
yeah, right.
Black Portuguese. His mother was and there was no discrimination. No
No.
one threw rocks through their windows or
No.
anything like that.
No, well, in this area here, there are quite a few
West Newton had a lot of
They still do.
black area.
Yeah, the village down there, down in behind St. Bernard's.
And that never caused any racial strife?
No. we went to school. I went to school with black kids down at Warren Junior High School, and they came from there. Yeah, and they're still kids at Newton High School. Same families,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
When
It
I
is.
went to Wellesley High, there was only one black family and one Jewish family for the whole school.
Wow. That really amazes me. I didn't, to say in the 30s and the 40s that there wasn't that type of racial strife. That's,
Oh, no.
That's incredible.
This one black boy in Wellesley High School that I went to school with was president of his class. And the white girls didn't, they didn't date him. He brought his own date to prom and stuff, but he was voted president of the class. He was voted president of the class for the year. So we really didn't experience that kind of discrimination.
Do you remember his name?
Robinson. His father ran a window cleaning business.
Still does.
Still does.
Yeah.
His brothers run it.
Yeah, in Wellesley.
I think he was probably the only one who went to college. He was the youngest. Maybe one some of the girls did.
Did your father ever encounter any racial strife, ethnic strife actually, because he was from Florida?
No, I don't think anyone did around here. I mean, no one would come up and say, "You GD Pollock" or "You dumb Pollock" or something on that line there.
Everybody played with everybody else.
Oh yes, yeah. You weren't restricted from playing with someone because they may be of Italian descent or something in that line there. Matter of fact, one of my very best friends, Frankie Utero, over there, we used to go there all the time during the summer, and they used to live over where the Riverside MTA station is now. There used to be a big sand pit over there, and they grew vegetables over there, more especially cabbages. We used to spend 2 hours sticking them in the rain barrel, soaking them up with water so they'd be heavy, and then take them to the cart and sell them door to door and make a piece for cabbages. It was a lot of fun. Spend all day long and make a dime. That was a lot of fun. Then he and I went into the service together.
Do you remember many women working in the 1920 to 1950 period?
Outside of the house.
Outside of the house.
I would probably say that maybe I'd have to relate that to my mother.
Okay.
Is that before she was married, or about the time that she got married, that she worked, and she did work with other women from the falls there. But I think that they were about the same age, and they all must have gotten married about the same time. But after they got married, I don't
Not
recall.
too many of them. Well, Mrs. Zahaski always worked, didn't
Well, yeah, she worked as a cook in a
Yeah.
couple of restaurants and
she?
so forth, Manning's restaurant, which is
Trying to
down the
think of other
falls.
people I hear to speak of.
Well, Mrs. Collins next door never worked.
How about like during World War II? Did any of them go into the married women with children? Did any of them go into the mills and work?
No, because at that time, I don't think that the mills were a hot item.
Okay.
At that time, I think everything was on the decline, and they were just about
They were big.
pulling. Well, plastics was something fairly new. Uh-huh.
But did they work anywhere else, or did they stay at home during World War II also?
I think pretty much that they stayed at home. Because anyone that I can think of is that, before I went in or after I came back from service, is that no one like Mrs. Crockett wasn't working. Never worked. Mrs. Stewart didn't work. Mrs. Grant didn't work. Really, none of the families did. They stayed home and took care of the kids, and did the hand wash and cleaned the house and did about 40,000 other things, which is probably the equivalent of 2 days normal work.
Which is why I only work outside the house.
Well,
okay. Did your wife work?
yes.
Off and on.
Off and on.
Off and on.
What?
I worked after I got married. I worked for a year or so, and then I didn't work for a while, and then I went back to work at Channing's. And I worked at Channing's until I got pregnant with Steve.
And what is Channing?
It was, well, I worked as a secretary. It was a private mental institution up in Roseville, very posh.
And Sue's your oldest?
Sue was our oldest.
And during the time that your children were growing up, did you work?
No.
No. Did you go
I
back?
didn't go back. I worked in the house here. I worked for a neighbor who was on the road as a salesman, a general salesperson on the road, field supervisor. He would send me dictaphone belts and I would type them, and then he would give me the weekend I would have them ready for me. But I worked, when my kids were in school, and I worked here in the house. I didn't go outside the house to work once I had my children until they were teenagers. And then I worked 2 or 3 nights a week at the Pillow House hostessing. And then I only worked there for about 5 months, and then I quit and went back to work for probably a couple of years, and I went to work at Women's Hospital 20 hours a week, and I'm still there. I'm there about 13.
As a
Secretary.
Did many of the other women in this neighborhood work also? No. And did they work before or after? After the children were?
Yeah, a lot of them
Most
went back to work when the kids were in their teens to start, helping put them through college and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember what the social life was like in the community life? Was this a close-knit community?
Yes, when I was young, we knew everyone in Newton Lower Falls. Everyone knew each other. You'd walk down the street, you knew.
Nothing was done socially.
Socially, no. The big thing in the summertime would be up at the playground, and
Kids.
adults too.
Really?
Playing horseshoes up there, horseshoe tournaments, baseball. As young kids up there, hour by hour.
But there weren't many dances or
No,
parties?
nothing of that. It wasn't that type of a crowd.
Okay.
The older generation or the younger generation. The younger generation, 2 or 3 couples may get together and go somewhere for the evening. You may go to a movie or go up to Marlboro to a dance or something like that there, which was very, very rare.
How about when you were first married? What did you do for social? Did you go to dances and things?
No, we didn't go to dances. We all were sort of in the same boat. We were all kind of poor. And we used to do things, for instance, New Year's Eve, we'd go to maybe we'd go out to dinner. And then we'd go to someone's house and we'd all bring something and have a big party. There were about, 25 of us,
Yeah, probably.
25 of us who got together, And we still socialize mainly with the crowd that we chummed with the relative when we first moved here. And we had parties here at this house. Other than that, we really, we really didn't go out a whole lot. We went out more before we had the children, and before we built our house. Once we built the house, we really didn't have the money to go out. And I quit working.
Do you feel that Newton Little Falls is close-knit any longer?
No.
It's very transient.
Very transient. You don't.
Once your children are out of once our children left the elementary school and went down to the high school, just right at that point we began to lose track, because then there would be changeover of people in the neighborhood, and you never really got to know them because you never really got to know their children. When our kids were in school, we could pretty much tell you everybody who lived here in the Falls. If we didn't know the parents because they didn't involve themselves with their kids' activities, then we knew kids.
Could you tell me about some of your experiences during World War II?
Oh, nothing. It was just a humdrum thing.
Yeah.
That's all.
We had his brother in France, was it?
Oh,
On
yeah,
the street.
met my
He
brother.
was looking for you, but
Well, he was.
you didn't know that he was there.
Yeah. I bumped into someone else from the Lower Falls and France and so forth. But, no, I was very fortunate. I had a very soft touch. How long was I there?
3 years.
So,
Well, he was
it really
behind.
wasn't as bad as that. It really wasn't as bad as that. So, we spent our time, like 6 months or so in England, and then a little bit in France and Belgium and stuff.
What was your position?
What was my position?
Big job, I don't know what that.
Oh, I was a small arms expert. Wound up as a sergeant.
Dealing with guns.
Okay. Has Newton Little Falls changed ethnically from when you were a youngster to now?
Sure.
What was the ethnic composition when you were a youngster?
Composition.
Irish Catholics.
Yep.
Well, of Irish descent.
Of Irish descent, I think.
Scotch.
Polish. Yeah. There are a few Yankee families here
Yeah.
too.
Came over on the Mayflower almost.
Almost, yeah.
And how about today? Is it incredibly diverse?
It's changed an awful lot, and I think that the big change pretty much has been from it being largely a Christian community to
I'd say it's pretty much half and half.
it's about 50-50 now.
And when you were younger, it was predominantly Christian.
Oh yeah, I don't think that we had
A Jewish.
a Jewish family here
Is that
in.
Since World War II. When they started building. When they started putting houses.
Was I?
You forgot.
I did. How about income? What was the income levels, or so to speak, when you were younger, and compared to today? Like, was it middle class when you were younger, or?
Oh gosh, no, I wouldn't call it middle class.
The majority were working.
We're
Lower middle class.
lower middle class.
On the lower end of
Yeah.
socio-economical ladder.
Yeah. There were a couple of families who were,
Yeah.
pretty well off and so forth, but not that
But
many.
the majority were hard working.
We're just average working
Yeah.
people that were probably making, in their 20s, maybe 40 or 50 bucks a week if they're doing that.
And how about today? Do you feel it's middle class today? Right?
Yes.
I would say it's middle class here now.
That's the impression I got driving through the neighborhoods. Like everyone's got two
Yeah.
cars and.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one of our tenants up in the industrial park is Cameron, and I was looking through one of their books. They rent books from Cole something or other, and in it lists all the streets and once they do Brooklyn or where they happen to be, and it's coded as to how long the people have been in that particular house since the start of this book, and whether it's middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class, or whatever. So just by looking at the book that you so yeah, but I would say it's definitely middle
Well,
class.
also the houses here, sell, I would say, roughly from 100,000 up. There aren't too many that you could buy for under 100,000.
No, I don't think there is.
No.
You know what I remember what I was going to ask you before?
Yeah.
When you're talking about this was a predominantly Christian area,
Yes.
was it predominantly Catholic or was it all different types of Christian religions?
Roman Catholic, I would say.
Okay.
I mean, it has St. Mary's Church down here, but not too many people from Lower Falls attend. It was mostly people from Wellesley. And the Methodist down there, which didn't last too long, and that closed up. And I don't recall the Baptist Church being around. And Temple, no.
Pretty much Catholic.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. How did Route 128 affect your family, or did it? What do you think about Route 128 going right down?
The first time I saw it, I said, it's too narrow. It's not wide enough. And I don't think
we ever objected to it.
No.
No.
I think other people on the other end of Lower Falls did, because some of them lost their homes. They were moved elsewhere. And
It did cut off
It did
a
cut
very
off
small part.
very small part of Lower Falls.
Yeah. It was almost a borderline though between Wadman and,
Yeah.
and Lower Falls.
I think it's probably brought more traffic to the area. But I think Riverside did more to bring traffic than
Yeah.
128.
That's probably one of the worst things
That we all kind of hate that.
MBTA and the assessment that we have
We have to pay.
pay and so on and so
And
forth.
also the people that it brings out here, because when it first was finished, we had people wandering the neighborhood that, just would come out to the end of the line and then wander around to see if they could
What was available?
steal. And they did do that.
Were people involved in politics when you were a teenager, early 20s?
I don't know of anyone my age at any time that was really involved in politics and in any shape
the way I
of
Well, one of our daughters in particular.
yeah.
Did they vote?
Oh yes, voted, but no one was out going door to door passing out these and hey, Ed, would you vote for so and so?
Standing up at the school.
Standing up at the
So
school,
That's the
passing
voting
out.
place.
Passing out things. No, that was done by people older than us at that time. And I don't ever recall being approached by anyone to say, hey, would you vote for so and so?
What do you think the political affiliation was when you were younger of the people in this neighborhood? You think they're predominantly Democrat or
Oh, no
Republican?
question, yeah, I would say, yeah, they'd be all Democrats.
Do you think the same holds true for today?
No, not at all.
You think it's a mixture or still predominantly Democrat? Or the other way around?
Well, it would be strictly a guess, but speaking for myself, I would call myself an independent. I wouldn't call myself a Democrat. I might vote Republican because I like what's been going on, or I happen to think that whoever I voted for was doing a good job. Vote more for the person, I think, than for.
But what would you say the neighborhood? Would you say the neighborhood was you would think it was probably more Republican than Democrat?
No, it's probably
Democrat.
still Democrat. I don't have anything to base it on, but the feeling is that it's still Democrat, but a lot more Republican and a lot more independents too. I think there are probably more independents than what people.
When you were younger, did you call yourself an independent then?
I did, yeah.
You've
right.
always.
I think I always have, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really all the questions I have. Do you have anything that you would want to add about that time period, or about work or anything?
Well, all I can say is that for the past several years, we've had a little get together at the house here, first part of December, and we generally invite over in the vicinity of 40 people or so.
Mainly old Lower Falls, the old Lower Falls.
That we call them
grew up
the
with.
settlers, original settlers with no carpetbaggers. And
Oh, you.
we have friends that are in their 70s that we invite over, and then they go down to around our age and so forth. And
Which is very far.
it's
We
quite
forget that.
it's quite an interesting evening to hear stories told over and over again about the time that the guy was, when they were building the new bridge over the Charles River down here, how the guy carried water. His job was to carry water for the fellows building the bridge down there. He worked all day long lugging water back and forth, and that was all for $1. And when he worked in the market over there was always some kind of a story about some sort of a trick that they would pull on a particular customer, and they would laugh and roll and all this sort of stuff. And we sort of stop and think about every year that there's generally one less that seems to show up, and that they've died, and that. How much longer? How much longer are the original settlers going to be around? And once we're gone, that period is gone.
Well, actually, there aren't that many of us still living in the falls. They just don't live that far away, so that that they can't come and visit, or they still have parents who live in the area or whatever. But there aren't that many who really still live in the falls.
But if anyone is interested in hearing stories of Lower Falls,
because we didn't think that this was going to be the gist of the question. We thought it would be more about what the falls was like geographically, maybe, or when this part of the falls is developed or that part of the falls is developed.
well, up to a point that has been it, but I mean it's more.
For instance, when I got married 38 and a half years ago, there was a big field where there was one house, my husband's family's home, and then there was nothing but a field. There were no houses
No
on the
houses.
side, no. And then finally, when we first got married, they built the houses across the street. And then they built, my father-in-law sold the land, and that house on the other side of the family home was put up. And then eventually we built this house. And just after that, they started developing the field. It was an enormous field.
Did that bother you to have all those houses coming in?
Oh, no.
No? Because I know a lot of people, like for instance, my family, we live out in the country, and I don't think my father would like it too much with a bunch of houses propped up in the backyard.
Yeah.
No,
I don't think so.
no, because I think it was bringing something to the area which
And
no
in the
one
long run,
no
it
one was
benefited
objecting
us
to it at
because
all.
When Ed's family's home was the only one on the street, it was a dirt road. It was like a big wide driveway.
Yeah.
And then when they put the houses through, it was still a dirt road. And it wasn't until our youngest daughter was probably, she was still in a play then, when they paved it.
So you benefit from that.
So we benefited
Yes,
from that.
yeah.
And it also brought neighbors,
Mhm.
for
Yeah.
our children to play with.
And people who moved in were, roughly our age, and
we were all
our
young
children.
together.
So it was nice.
It was nice.
I mean, no one was trying to build an apartment building next door or a gas
That
station
type
or
of thing we're
something
not
like
too
that.
crazy about,
Yeah.
that the influx of apartments at the other end of the street, although the apartments really, we've been fortunate in that they are a little bit pleasanter to look at than the oil company. We had oil trucks going up and down the street, and the smell you get wasn't too pleasant. So in that respect, it was good. We're not too crazy about the Holiday Inn going in and Riverside going in.
Well, the Holiday Inn, where the Holiday Inn is now, was a sand pit. Used to be Riverside Sand and Gravel, and they had a big wooden frame thing up there that hauled the sand up in the stone, and they crushed the stone and all that sort of stuff. And had big piles of sand there and all that sort of jazz. But I think Riverside was really a big blow.
We really didn't like that because it brought a tremendous amount of traffic to the area, which endangered our kids. Crossing.
Right.
Particularly in the
main
morning,
road.
that's the very busiest time of all. Even when our kids were in high school, they took their life in their hands crossing Washington Street in the morning because cars would disregard the lights. So that was really a blow. But other than that, I think we really loved moving in fall. I know I have.
Oh yeah.
It's been nice. It was nice. They closed the school. This is one of the schools they closed. But when our children were going here, it was lovely to be able to, when they were very young, to watch them just walk
Sit right
across
here
the
and
playground
watch them walk right in the door.
It was a
And see them come out.
sense of security.
But I think what they have up there now was the best use for it that they could possibly.
Because it's still part of the, when our first child went to kindergarten, they were building an addition to the school because that was the baby boom. And that part of the addition has been kept as a community center. The gym is used by the community, and they have a library up there. And then the rest of it is apartments for the elderly and handicapped. And it's a marvelous use, I think.
Was that just recently closed?
5 years ago,
I'd say
maybe?
probably, in the area of five years ago.
Roughly
Yeah.
5, 6 years ago.
I think
And
it's
it was a
wonderful
big
thing.
brouhaha about it. And it was a sad thing because you hated to see the people who had bought homes here lose that. But, I talk to the youngsters and they think it's great going on school buses. They think it's swell. They go to Angier or in Wobbin or Williams, which is right over here home here. And they think that is wonderful. Those parents who really went crazy.
Get upset. Yeah.
So, but it is good use for the school. And they've kept the playing fields and the tennis courts, that sort of thing. So we still have all those.
Facilities.
Yeah. Actually, they built new tennis courts, which they built in the old ones.
When they did the housing.
They did the housing.
They used the other area for, it's a little gym. How much further you are carrying this program along?
Well,
I mean, is
yeah, I'll
this-
tell you. Let me just shut this off. I just want to say thank you
Oh,
very
yes.
much for doing this interview.
I
And
thought that would go.
this is the end of the interview.
Yeah.
I don't sing a song or anything, do
If you want to, go ahead.
Hands on the table.
Okay. This is the end of the interview with Mr. Edward Bartzak for the Newton Free Library by Bridget Ferns.